Hey folks, Tim Newman with Softlight Studios bringing another Adobe Photoshop CC 2009 quick tip your way. Actually, today we're going to take a look at some quick tips in both Photoshop CC 2018 and 2019, and it's all going to be about the undo commands that are available within the Photoshop application. Let's take a look. We are going to take a look at the undo operations that are available in Photoshop. And while we're at it, we are going to contrast and compare how undo works in Photoshop CC 2018 and how it works in Photoshop CC 2019. Now, you may not be aware of it, or you may have tripped over it by accident, but with the 2019 release, the folks at Adobe saw fit to change how the undo operation works. And I would say that the change generally is good, but it came as a surprise to a lot of folks. So let's explain to you how it works in both of these versions and the differences that you're seeing. We are going to start off here in Photoshop CC 2018 with an image I have loaded. You will notice that I have the paintbrush ready to go, and I have this lovely lime green color here all queued up. And I'm simply going to draw 4 brush strokes across the surface of this image, what we would normally consider to be a pretty destructive edit in all reality. Now, as you probably know, on the Mac, a Command-Z, on Windows, a Control-Z undoes the last operation. And this is as far as it goes, because if I do that Command-Z or Control-Z again on those respective platforms, that last edit comes back. So the Command-Z, Control-Z on Mac and Windows simply toggle the last edit step on and off. Now, if you wish to go further backwards in editing history, there are 2 ways of doing it. One is to come up here to the Edit menu, click on that so we get the little Edit menu drop down, and you can see that there is an available option for doing a step backwards, and it's the same Command-Z or Control-Z, but on the Mac we're adding in the Option key, on Windows we're adding in the Alt key. So if I come out of this menu and I hold down on the Mac Option Command-Z, that would be Alt Control-Z on Windows, you can see that I step backwards through my edits in order. So nice, handy little modifier key to know about. You may have noticed this, but we're going to hop back up into the menu here again. I can also step forward on the Mac with a Shift Command-Z, or step forward on Windows with a Shift Control-Z. So let's go ahead and try that. We've got a Shift Command-Z, boom, boom, boom. Those edits are back. Pretty cool. And works really nicely, has been in Photoshop for a period of time. Now, of course, last but not least, real easy to come over here and work our way through the history stack and undo our steps here in the history stack. Now, here's the thing to keep in mind with the history stack, and this is true if you're stepping backwards as well, but if I come over here and say change my color, and I'd really like to go to a bright red here, and I draw that in as my next brush stroke, you notice that the remainder of the history stack after this new operation has been purged. So the history stack, you can step backwards in the history stack, but as soon as you do a new operation, anything below that operation in the history stack is blasted out of there. Okay, so now let's go over to Adobe Photoshop CC 2019. Got the same image loaded up here. I've got my brush loaded up here as well, albeit with a different color, so it's obvious what we're doing. And I'm going to do those same 4 brush strokes across the image. And now I'm going to use the traditional Command-Z undo on the Mac, same as the Control-Z undo on Windows. And you'll notice if I keep doing that, I am now automatically stepping backwards through my edits in order. And in fact, if we come up here to the Edit menu, you will see that the step backwards and step forwards tools have been taken out of the menu. We do now have a redo brush tool command here, which is the same shortcut as step forward used to be. So it's going to be Shift Command-Z on a Mac, Shift Control-Z on Windows, and that is the same as stepping forward. And if we go back up here into the menu, you'll notice that we do have the ability to toggle the last state, but step backwards has been completely removed and put into the normal Command/Control-Z shortcut. Also, I do have the history panel down here in 2019 where I can step my way through the edits in order. It does have the same replacement factor here, so if I come over here and grab a color and say, let's go with this lovely shade of blue, do that brush stroke here, now you can see that is our last operation in the history stack, and all the other operations have been purged. One last thing that we want to take a look at here before we wrap this up is the preferences settings for Photoshop. Now, on the Macintosh, preferences are under the Photoshop menu. On Windows, it's under Edit Preferences, and what we'll be looking at is the Performance tab in the Preferences dialog box. And you'll notice right here, we have the ability to set the number of history states that we can have Photoshop keep track of. And if we click on this, we get a drop-down slider, and we can set it all the way down to 1 history state or all the way up to 1,000 history states. So that's 1,000 steps that you can actually undo over there in the history control panel. Now, obviously, if we increase the history states, we are going to potentially be affecting performance in Photoshop because every one of those history states takes up just a little bit more memory. So that's something you want to keep an eye on, but that is something that's tunable if you'd like to have more undo steps within Photoshop that you can work with. Now, one thing to keep in mind, history is only available to you while the application is actually running. If you save a file in Photoshop, that history stack is emptied out, and any edits that you have not undone, especially if they are on the image layer itself, like we have with these paint swatches that we've drawn here, those become permanent edits that you cannot undo. So keep that in mind. Well, there you have it, folks. All of the various undo operations that are available in Photoshop CC 2018 and Photoshop CC 2019. Well, there you have it, folks. The undo commands in both Photoshop CC 2018 and the newer versions in Photoshop CC 2019. Hope you found this little insight useful. I think it's always nice to know how to quickly undo steps in Photoshop that you may wish that you hadn't done and move your way backwards in your workflow. Hopefully this video was helpful for you, and this little insight will improve your workflow within Photoshop. If you're interested in more videos that we're doing here at Softlight Studios, please feel free to mash that red subscribe button down below so we can bring you our newest stuff in a timely manner. All right, keep up the editing out there, and remember, as we always say, learning equals skills, practice equals mastery. We'll see you out there.